Hello friends, my name is Malik Nejat and welcome to How to Skills with. In this video, we're gonna go over a remote state and HTTP backend by Terraform. So far, if you didn't watch last video about how to manage GitLab projects by Terraform, I would recommend to have a look on it by click on the link which is pinned above this video. As you know, in last video, we stored our Terraform state locally. The state is how Terraform knows what infrastructure deployed and here knows which repo provision. So, as it has been stored locally, all that works fine. But if you are working on a team and also working with CI/CD pipelines, this doesn't really work well. So that's where remote states come into play. So the idea for a remote state is that in a state of storing all the state data locally, save them on a version control system. There are different types of backends, but here our focus is on HTTP backend today. Let's start. As you see here in the terminal, last time we have created this Terraform code to create a repository on GitLab server. This is repo manager, and also we push the code here. As you see here, we have created demo01 repository here. But the Terraform TF state is stored locally. Yes, we save it, this state on GitLab repo. But for any reason, if you do change on your repo by GUI, but it will not store in TF state. This will make problem for other developers. As we spoke at the start of this session about HTTP backend, here you see something. Using Terraform, try the GitLab manage Terraform state. So by HTTP backend, we can store all the state file on GitLab because GitLab is a version control and it's a good place to store all the state file here. So how we can do that? If we click on this one, it will show us how to initialize Terraform to let us store a state file on the GitLab. At first, we need to use backend in Terraform code and tell to Terraform where to store TF state data. So copy this one back to terminal. Let's open the main file and the Terraform block, add it here. Save it. So the first step down, let's check again an instruction. For initialize, we need to set up something. Set up the initial backend. What we need? Project ID. What is the project ID? If we back here, repo manager, as you see, there is a project ID. Because we want to store a state file in repo manager. So we should use this project ID. So the next thing that we should take care of that is username. Yes, we have our username, a password, we have a token, and TF address. Where is the address of GitLab repo that we want to store a state file? We should take care like this one, the GitLab address, API version 4 project, the project ID that we grab from the repo manager, Terraform, state, and the name for the state file. Because every project should have a separate and different name with the others. if we want, for example, to destroy that repo, we need to point to that specific state file that we have created. And finally, we should use this command to initialize HTTP backend. I prepared that here in simple language, Terraform initialize at the address here. The project ID, let me check the project ID again. Repo manager, the project ID is 2. Let's back to my node file. So I change it to 2. Username, token, all the commands that we saw here. Okay, so if I run this command, will initial HTTP backend on GitLab server for this project. As you remember, before we deployed demo01 and all the state file stored locally here. So if I run this new command, it will point to HTTP backend on GitLab server. But there is one thing weird here. If after this new init, I do Terraform plan and Terraform apply, I will get an error. Why? Because we already deployed demo01 and all the configuration is stored in the local Terraform TF state. So we will get error and it will show us this repo has been created and you cannot create another repo with this name. So for prevent such error, I have added this one, --reconfigure. So what do this flag for us? This flag will transfer the local TF state file to HTTP backend. And after that, if we run plan and Terraform apply, we will not get an error. Just refresh the TF state file. So let's do it. Copy this one, back to terminal, and paste it here, enter. As you see here, pre-existing state was found while migrating the previous local backend to newly configured HTTP backend. So it asks, can we migrate the local state to HTTP? Say yes. So initialize the plugin and transfer the local state to remote state. So if I run Terraform plan, yeah, so has to compare your real infrastructure and no difference found. The same here, nothing changed. So let's back to repo manager and we need to check where the Terraform state file is stored. As you see in infrastructure, Kubernetes cluster, Terraform, and Google Cloud. So we point to Terraform. As you see here, 1 minute ago, updated here. If I click here, I can download JSON file. As you see, all the states here. So at the moment, we learn how to select GitLab as a HTTP server and initial that and also transfer local state to HTTP backend. The next topic gonna to speak about it is how to manage existing repos by Terraform. Imagine we have a repo that has been created manually. Let me create a new repo, demo02 in the same area. Private or public is no matter, so just create project. As you see, a private repo has been created manually. So how we can manage this repo by Terraform? How to tell Terraform to control this repo and build a state file in HTTP backend for this one. So let's go into Google and find a way to manage existing repos by Terraform. Just in Google, type Terraform manage existing resources. Normally, it's called import existing resources. There is a command called Terraform import, which allows us to specify the resource that want to import. So here, import existing resources. If we read and click here, this command called import, as I told you, just go here, import. For using the Terraform import, we should like this Terraform import address ID. How to use that? Let's back to GitLab server, demo02, click on it, the project ID 4. We need to indicate in Terraform code to import this project ID. Let's back to terminal, vim main. This is the resource that we used before. So the existing repo is called demo02 and name 02. And also we don't need this one. That's enough. That's enough. We don't need this one anymore. Only we need this section. And the provider is also only we need this section. So save it. We need to run Terraform init again, but here we should change the name of a state file. Change it to 02. 02 and rerun it down. Here the Terraform import come to use it. Let's main.tf, grab this one, Terraform import the resource name and the ID number 4. Just enter. Import successful. Let's check GitLab. Go to repo manager. Here, Terraform, as you see here, demo02. A state file is here. So with a simple command, Terraform import, we could manage existing repository on GitLab by Terraform. Let's back to terminal and show you the command again. Terraform import resource name that was indicated in the Terraform main tf GitLab underline project dot demo02. And then we initialize that by changing this command and refer to the new name, demo02. Okay, let's run Terraform show. And as you see here, all the configuration for demo02 are recorded in a state file like this. Let's run vim main tf and remove this one. As you know, the repo that we have created manually and after that import to Terraform was a private repo. So let's change it to public. Terraform plan, as you see here, we have one change and apply. Yes, let's back to GitLab. As you see, it's changed to public. Now we learn how to use GitLab as a HTTP backend to record or Terraform a state file, and also we learn how to manage existing repository on GitLab by Terraform import. these two subjects that we have learned are introduction for GitLab CI/CD pipelines. This is the end of this tutorial. In next tutorial, I will describe how to use GitLab CI/CD to make all this process automatically in a state on local computer using the Terraform Plant, Terraform Play. We will do all of them by CI/CD automatically. See you next.